It's incredible. I mean, I'm trying to find the words. Seeing it straight through was like watching the movie, and I was worried that all I would hear were mistakes and things that I would do differently, and I was just afraid it would sort of die, just for no reason. I mean, it was incredible. Just see 9 actors really commit to it and take it seriously. I mean, that's the hardest thing about being a writer, is that like when you're struggling, people don't even take it seriously. Whether it's not about of course you want them to like it, but it's just taking it seriously, just like really considering it. And sometimes even if someone doesn't like something but they take it seriously, it's still gratifying. It's like if they've, like you guys just know the script so well, and it seems like a small thing, but like every beat of the script probably a little better than I do right now because I wrote it so long ago. I wrote the first draft in 2008. And I'd say it's 80% the same movie. It always started, well, no, that's not true. It always, as far as Derek, it always sort of started and ended in the same place. But so I wrote the first couple drafts then, and then moved on to other things. And then I came back to it 2013 because there was somebody who was interested in directing it. That didn't work out, but he really loved it and gave me really just one big note that I kind of just ran with and loved. And so the last time I really worked on it was just about 18 months ago, which is not so long ago. So I'd say the bulk of the work was done, almost 7 years ago. It was the summer of '08. It's funny because I've written so many scripts, and normally the inspiration is something I can't quite verbalize, and this is the one that I actually can. I live in Los Angeles, and people were flashing their brights at me, and that's where my story ends. But I never flash back because I've heard this urban myth that gangs will do that sometimes, that they flashed you, and if you flash back, they'll hunt you down, pull you out of the car, and kill you. And I thought that was an interesting place to kind of run with a movie, like kind of a horror movie, but when you call things a horror movie, people get their haunches up because some people think, oh, it doesn't have vampires or zombies in it, it can't be a horror movie. And I've gotten into a lot of arguments with other writers and other just sort of film fans about what constitutes a horror movie, and so I'm sometimes reluctant to describe this as horror unless I know like the person's taste. But I was sort of inspired by Duel, the first Steven Spielberg movie, which is about a guy being chased by an 18-wheeler, and like this movie, you never see the guy who did it, and there's no resolution. You never find out why. And I thought that was interesting because I don't think the why was that important. I was originally inspired by Assault on Precinct 13, the old John Carpenter movie, which is about an interracial gang that works together and how scary that would be if, blacks, whites, Hispanics just decided to just work together to terrorize. But I kind of moved away from that because I felt like there was a scarier version of it. And I forgot who said it. I mean, I'd shown the script to so many people, but someone had kind of said, when I found out it was a gang, I kind of was, less afraid. I kind of was, it kind of felt perfunctory and obligatory, so I just thought it would be interesting to just not explain it. I mean, I think later on I decided to hint that they were wealthy people. I thought that would be enough to sort of just hint that, these people are not from a poor neighborhood and that they're doing this for sport. And I thought that it's just the idea that, you can't escape this from living in a nicer neighborhood, which is why I have that massacre at the house. And for people who don't know, the area of Los Angeles that is described, it's Hancock Park, which is the houses there are absolutely amazing and gorgeous. And it's, I think, the prettiest street in LA. Every time I drive down it, I always think, wow, I would kill to have one of these houses. More so than Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills obviously is world famous, but so I thought it'd be interesting, what if it hit these people? I didn't want his problems to be over once he left downtown.
Right.
Because that's an easy thing for people to kind of just distance themselves from. It's tough because at first I wanted Derek to be the everyman, kind of that Hitchcockian everyman, but I ran into a problem because the way I approached this script, which is the way I try to approach all scripts, I'm not always successful, is what would I do? And I know that I'm not interesting enough to be the center of a movie, but I thought, okay, if this happened to me in real life and these cars were chasing me, I would just drive straight to a police station. The movie would be over pretty quick, so why couldn't I drive to a police station? And then I thought of, if he had drugs in the car, if he were, not a drug dealer, because I think that would make him kind of instantly unsympathetic to most people, but if he were just this, Derek, I think, is an ordinary man who's made some mistakes, and I tried to make him the everyman, but who's misbehaved a little bit, and hopefully, audience sympathy is with him. I think it was with him today. I think that they did a remarkable job. I don't think anybody would want to see him killed. But, I like flawed characters, but it's becoming, well, when I wrote the script, it was very hard for there to be flawed characters in movies, but I think now there's a bit of an appetite for that. I think audiences are kind of speaking up and voting with their feet a little bit, and I think, I think people are starting to, and television's helped that a lot. I mean, the fact that every television show has a pretty complex or despicable main character, and people, Breaking Bad being kind of the most supreme example, but going back to The Sopranos. So I think, a lot of, the fact that there's an audience, maybe it's a small audience, but, if even a few million people want to see a movie, if you keep the budget low enough, then you could do quite well. So I think, Derek, to answer your question 80 minutes after you asked it, is I think he's an everyman who's put himself in a situation where he can't he can't just run to the police. And I think that's kind of a Hitchcockian thing, that like somebody who's in danger but can't just go to the police. I just gave him a different reason. Well, I entered a lot of screenplay contests over almost 15 years. I mean, since before I even graduated from college. And some of them, as I've gotten older and had a little bit of success, I sort of know which contests to just stay away from. Like, because how your emails sort of pass around like a girl with a bad reputation. I get things all the time from some things that are very cool, and I think that's how you guys might have found me. I think I got an email, which you guys are through the ISA, so that makes total sense. So, I mean, I get emails all the time, so I think that's how I found out about it. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 99% sure that I saw the email and I read about it, and I thought, wow, this is a prize that's actually, it's really fantastic. I mean, to be able to go to Sundance, I've never been here before, and I've read many books about Sundance. And a friend of mine had a movie here about 14 years ago, and he asked me to come along, and I said, kind of callously, well, I'll go when I'm invited. And so to be invited, it was just too good an opportunity to pass up. And one reason was a little bit logistical, but because I knew it was tied to Sundance, I knew that this contest wouldn't drag on for 8 months like some of these things do. I mean, I'm in another contest that I entered in early September, and the results come out next month, and that's like 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's just a long time. And it's not like I have all my eggs in that basket, but most of them take a really long time, and this was quick. 10 years ago, I had set up some table reads in my own apartment for scripts. I just gotten some actors together. Some were actors, some were just friends of mine. And I had done this maybe 5 or 6 times, a couple times for one script, and usually they were a disaster because the script was a disaster. But it was instructive because I did hear what was wrong with it, and I hadn't done it in it's been almost 10 years, so I just love that idea. I think it's such a great, just be able to sit and watch your movie without having to, go through all the trouble of getting it made, at least yet. I just think it's just a great prize. It's better than getting just, here's some money and here. I mean, you enter a contest for exposure. You don't enter it to win. At least I don't. When I was younger, it was all about, I'm going to win. Like, I've entered, the nickel contest every year since I was a senior in college, and because that's another contest I think is great for what it offers, but it's really just about exposure. It's really just about, someone seeing your name on a list and seeing like, that sounds interesting, even if you don't win, even when they just announce here are the semifinalists, here are the quarterfinalists, I think that's just a great thing to kind of, and it just helps you, when the semifinals for this came out and I saw that my name was on the list, it just was like, okay, I'm not crazy, I'm at least better than the, the bottom of whatever you guys saw. So, writers need encouragement, and it's very easy. It's a tough industry, and it's very easy to get discouraged, even if you have 6 Oscars on your mantle. Sundance it's been pretty much exactly what I hoped it would be. I mean, it's crazy. It's a little more party centric than which I expected it to be. I'm not a huge party guy. I said to my wife, we were walking down Main Street, I think it was Saturday night, and it was like being on Sunset, and I don't go to Sunset that often, but it's great. It's really, it's like LA away from LA, but people are a little bit nicer. Even people from LA, there's like more, and everyone's been kind of friendly, and a producer came up to me not knowing who I was, that I wasn't anybody, and just sort of asked, hey, what are you doing here, and so I think it's been great. It's Park City's beautiful, and I think that Sundance in general is such an amazing thing. I think it's just, so many great movies have come out of here, over the last 25 years, and I just think that sort of the mainstream watch independent films, and that's all because of here. Sundance really has been on the forefront of getting, I mean, my grandparents saw Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and I was really young when that movie came out. I was too young, but I remember thinking like, wow, that's interesting. They would have never ever seen, and they grew, they lived in South Carolina, and it's just, and great movies are starting to come out of Sundance again, like Whiplash and Boyhood. I mean, those are two of the three best movies I saw last year, and they're up for Academy Awards. So I think that like interesting stuff's always coming out of Sundance, but I feel like it's getting back to like the glory days of the 90s where we're going to see just like amazing stuff. The table read, and also just getting here and meeting all of you guys and just, not to blow smoke, but just the fact that you guys liked the script so much or even liked it enough and that you just took it seriously. The fact that you knew the script, you and Niall, we were working with the actors earlier, just the fact that it seems like such an obvious thing that, they read the script, but sometimes someone will read a script and you'll have a meeting with them and it's like they've read it, but they don't have to know every line, but they just sort of like, you'll reference something and they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I forgot, what happened in this one? And I know, because they have 1,000 scripts to read, but it's just nice. The whole experience has been good, but to answer the question you asked, I think this was just amazing. just to watch it read by actors who all are professional and amazing, and I understand that David seeked you guys out. Yeah. Which is amazing. I was talking to him before the reading, just like asking, hey, if you have any questions about the character, and the fact that he seeked you guys out is great. And I hope that continues. And he doesn't know my name, so he just thought the contest was cool. He saw it on Twitter. I don't know if he told you that. So, I think this is an incredible experience, whether it was at Sundance or Van Nuys or any place. It's because as a writer, you don't know if you're ever going to make it, if you're ever going to hear the works performed, and I was telling Misha, like, that's exactly how I pictured Polo, And a lot of the other scenes are how I pictured them, but a lot of them were elevated. But, that was, and I didn't say a word to him about it. He just got it. I felt like it worked. I don't know. I'm not the most objective person. A friend of mine was here who knew nothing about the script, and I'm curious to talk to people who, I think most people in here hadn't read it. So I'm curious to see, and I feel like it played. I feel like somebody gasped behind me at one point. I don't remember what point. Oh, see, my wife was taking better mental notes, and I feel like there are a couple laugh lines, and I feel like those got laughs, and I feel like it worked. I'm sort of the worst person to ask, but the best part of this is absolutely this event. Everything leading up to it's been amazing. Getting the phone call was obviously kind of insane. Even though you left me a voicemail saying, like, I have some good news for you, and I'm like, so like there's no ambiguity about what it is, but I don't even know if I told you this. Like, as I was like trying to call you back, because you had Skyped me, so the number I couldn't call back, and I was like, shit. And I had to listen to your voicemail because you left your phone. So it took me like 5 minutes just to because I can't memorize phone numbers anymore because it's 2015. So in my head, I'm like, okay, this is probably it, but I've never won a contest before. I was a finalist in one contest about 11 years ago, and the contest was total bullshit, to answer your question. And it was just one. It was a contest that it was just through this management company that they put on, and then they were like, oh, well, we'll talk to you about the script, and then they were just like, yeah, we don't like it. I'm like, well, how did it get to the finals of your contest? And the woman said, I'll never forget this. She said, well, honestly, your script was kind of a mess, but it was so much better than the other ones. And I was like, thank you. I don't know. No, this is an incredible. Any screenwriter in my position, this is an incredible honor. The Sundance thing is icing, but to do this, again, I would have applied to this if it was in downtown LA or if it was in Nebraska, because of the spirit of Sundance. It just felt like, to come here and see it with my own eyes and have a reason to be here. I'd never come here, not something wrong with that, but I'm not the kind of person who will come here just to network. I have no problem doing that, but I always felt like I want to be here for a reason.